My boyfriend of 3 years backed into my mom's fiance's truck, and it messed the bumper up. It was 100% our fault. We knew his truck was blocking us in slightly, so he was going to have to maneuver his way out. We were talking about something, and he got distracted and I guess forgot the car was there. It was very dark outside, and backed into it. It wasn't very hard, and the car still works fine and everything, but the bumper is messed up and needs to be replaced and repainted, I guess. Now, the bad part is my boyfriend is uninsured. When it happened, he ran inside and apologized a bunch, and they said they would talk more about how to go about fixing it at a later time because it was getting late. But my mom's fiance mentioned something about going through his insurance to get it fixed, and my boyfriend would pay the deductible. My boyfriend was just about to start his new job after being unemployed for a bit. So he said he would have some money in the next few weeks. They had a couple conversations in person after that. To be honest, I can't fully recall everything that was said on either end. But basically, after one of these conversations, they ended on my mom's fiance having to call his insurance and inquire about making a claim and what the details would be regarding that, in order to see what our options were. He never did this, then confronted my boyfriend the next time they saw each other, and basically was pissed that my boyfriend hasn't made an effort to reach out to him about the car. We asked if he called the insurance company, and he was now saying he won't be going that route and he won't call them. It's worth noting he had been drinking for almost all of these conversations, and I genuinely don't think he remembered what was said, and so therefore didn't realize the ball was in his court. My boyfriend ended it by saying to just go about it however he wants, and then they can go from there. A couple weeks ago, mom's fiance sent my boyfriend an invoice for about $2,000 and said that was the estimate on getting the bumper fixed. My boyfriend responded with a text listing other possible options, as $2,000 is kind of a hefty bill to foot. I will admit I didn't necessarily like the way the text was worded or what was said, and I told him this. I will copy and paste the text below. All right, to be honest, I think that's pretty steep for some of the stuff on there. $650 for the paint job and 17 hours to fix the bumper is nuts, LOL. So there's 3 options I kind of think of. 1, you go through your insurance, and I pay the deductible. It's fully taken care of at an establishment that's trusted by the insurance. I'd be willing to pay the full deductible of $500 and an additional $250 for the year for if your insurance were to rise a bit. 2, I do some calling around to find some better pricing, confident we can find something lower than $2,000, but would just have to see 3. If you want to go through them and don't want to see other places or use insurance, I'd be fine paying $1,000 towards it, and you could then cover the rest. Which do you think works best for you? My mom's fiance replied, none of them. Listen, I don't have time for all this, nor do I want to go back and forth. I already told you I wasn't making that claim through my insurance. Feel free to get your own shop and tell me when to drop off the car for repairs if you don't agree with this invoice. I just want the bumper fixed. Again, I want to reiterate that I don't agree with my boyfriend's text, and definitely not only him offering to pay half, considering it was his fault he backed into the car in the first place. However, there is a bit of context needed for the situation. My boyfriend and I are currently saving to move in together. I am not in a good living situation. I live with my brother, and quite frankly, I'm in a very toxic and emotionally hurtful household. And my boyfriend lives with his family. My stepdad and I have a good relationship, and he always refers to me as his daughter, even though he and my mom aren't even married yet. I'm not in contact with my real dad. He's hurtful. So I really value my relationship with my almost stepdad. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to get his car fixed, because we definitely want to get it fixed. But the timing of this literally could not be worse. He was radio silent on this whole situation for 6 months, then just pops up with a bill for $2,000. I was hoping that since we are family and the issue is purely cosmetic, that he would at least contact his insurance company or inquire with a different mechanic or something, considering the situation we are in. However, my mom and her fiance are saying he needs to step up and be a man and just pay it. This situation is causing a lot of tension and animosity, and now they are both too stubborn to fix this themselves. And I'm in the middle trying to solve this because they can't communicate like adults. They are acting like little boys with dumb little egos instead of trying to come to a resolution. I was supposed to have a birthday dinner at my mom's house in the next few weeks, and I canceled it because I'm over the drama. If you made it this far, thank you. I tried to only include necessary details, but I have even left out a bunch of stuff. I appreciate any input and will try to see all perspectives. At this point, I'm angry with everyone involved in the situation. Please be kind in your replies. I don't need anyone telling me to break up with my boyfriend or cease contact with anyone. LOL. To add, formatting. Almost forgot. Okay, y'all, I know that Reddit is the wild, wild west, but guys, are we okay? Ema just lists the conclusions y'all have come to. 1. That I do fentanyl? WTF? 2. That my boyfriend and I are junkies. My boyfriend has never done hard drugs, and I rarely partake in party favors. 3. That I grew up middle class and now call myself poor because I'm bad with money, but I'm not really poor. I grew up homeless for majority of my childhood. 4. That I should break up with my boyfriend. I know it's easy to assume you know a person from one Reddit post, but I'm sorry to tell you it's not going to happen. 5. I can afford it because I went to Coachella. I went for free, no lie, LMAO. I understand my boyfriend was in the wrong. I never once denied that, and I intend to make sure my stepdad is paid in full. Like I said, he has been saving for this, so he has the money. We just wanted to exhaust all of our options before cutting a chunk out of our savings. We had reached out to my stepdad multiple times to get this resolved, and he essentially ghosted us about it. So we assumed he was waiting to figure out some things. I know now we should have been proactive. Thank you to those who actually gave helpful advice and respectful criticism. I took into account all that you had to say. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It costs $2,000 to fix, and they can't agree on how to go about fixing it. My boyfriend doesn't want us to pay that amount, since we are trying to save to move. And my stepdad hasn't made any efforts to find a cheaper or easier option. That's the irrelevant part. OP, you are done with drama. Done with toxic people, right? Your boyfriend is drama. He was driving negligently without insurance. And why doesn't he want to pay $2,000? Is it because he called around to a bunch of places with images of the damage, etc., and tried to get a quote? No. It's because he doesn't want to spend the money right now. Because y'all have other plans. It's not on your stepdad to cater to him here. Personally, I'd say he squares this away within a week, or you need to seriously reconsider this relationship. Comment 2. I'm sorry, but at age 27, your boyfriend should not be playing dumb and acting like a teenager about this. You state in a comment, it's been 6 months of going back and forth. Your poor stepfather has had to live with a damaged car for half a year. Your boyfriend is, at this point, probably going to screw your stepfather. Your boyfriend is very, very immature, irresponsible, and reckless. I'm sure your family thinks you can do better than this guy, and honestly, I do too. He sounds like a punk. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. So, after my boyfriend sent that text to my mom's fiance, things got even more complicated. My mom's fiance was clearly not happy with the options my boyfriend suggested, and he made it clear that he just wanted the bumper fixed without any more back and forth. My boyfriend and I decided to take matters into our own hands and started calling around to different auto shops to get some quotes. We found a place that quoted us $1,500, which was still a lot, but better than $2,000. We thought this might be a good compromise, so we told my mom's fiance about it. He wasn't thrilled, but agreed to take the car to the shop for an estimate. When he got there, the shop found additional damage that we hadn't noticed before, which bumped the cost back up to around $2,000. My boyfriend was really frustrated at this point because it felt like we were back to square one. He reluctantly agreed to pay the $2,000, but we needed a bit more time to gather the money since we were saving for our move. In the meantime, my mom's fiance started getting more aggressive about the payment. He began texting my boyfriend almost daily, demanding updates, and making snide comments about how irresponsible he was. This constant pressure was really getting to my boyfriend, and it started affecting our relationship. We were arguing more, and the stress was making it hard for us to focus on anything else. One night, things came to a head. My boyfriend and I were at my mom's house for dinner, and my mom's fiance brought up the car situation again. He was clearly drunk and started yelling at my boyfriend, calling him a deadbeat and saying he was tired of waiting for the money. My boyfriend snapped and yelled back, saying he was doing his best and that my mom's fiance was being unreasonable. My mom tried to intervene, but it was too late. The argument escalated and my boyfriend stormed out of the house. After that night, my boyfriend and I had a serious talk. He was feeling really disrespected and didn't want to deal with my mom's fiance anymore. He suggested that we just pay the $2,000 and be done with it, even if it meant dipping into our savings. I agreed, but I was also really upset about how everything had played out. I felt like I was stuck in the middle, trying to keep the peace between my boyfriend and my mom's fiance, and it was taking a toll on me. We managed to scrape together the $2,000 and paid my mom's fiance. He finally got the bumper fixed, but the damage to our relationships was already done. My boyfriend and I were still arguing a lot, and I felt like I couldn't go to my mom's house without feeling uncomfortable. My mom tried to smooth things over, but it was clear that there was a lot of tension between all of us. In the midst of all this, I started reflecting on my relationship with my mom's fiance. He had always been supportive and treated me like his own daughter, but this situation had shown a different side of him. I realized that he had a tendency to be controlling and aggressive, especially when he was drinking. This wasn't the first time he had blown up over something relatively minor, and it made me question how healthy our relationship really was. I also started thinking about my own father and how his hurtful behavior had affected me. I had always valued my relationship with my mom's fiance because he was the father figure I never had, but now I was seeing some of the same patterns of behavior that I had tried to escape from. It was a painful realization, but it helped me understand why this situation was affecting me so deeply. As for my boyfriend, he was dealing with his own internal conflicts. He felt like he had let me down by not handling the situation better, and he was struggling with the pressure of trying to save for our future while also dealing with this unexpected expense. He confided in me that he was worried about being able to provide for us and that he didn't want to be seen as a failure. This vulnerability was something I hadn't seen from him before, and it made me realize how much this situation was weighing on him. Despite all the stress and tension, my boyfriend and I decided to move forward with our plans to move in together. We found a small apartment that we could afford, and we started the process of moving out of our respective toxic living situations. It wasn't easy, and there were still a lot of unresolved issues with my mom and her fiance, but we were determined to make it work. In the end, the whole situation left me feeling disillusioned and hurt. I had always thought of my mom's fiance as a stable and supportive figure in my life, but this experience had shown me that he had his own flaws and issues. It also made me realize that my boyfriend and I needed to work on our communication and support for each other if we were going to build a life together. Thank you for reading. Aita for telling my husband to step up or step out when it comes to our daughter. My husband, who is 33 years old, and I, who am 23 years old, just had our first daughter, who is 8 months old, in October. We have been together for 4 years. He is a good dad for the most part. I know he loves her very much, but he won't spend time or be involved with her, resulting in her only ever wanting me. He will do pretty much anything I ask of him relating to our daughter, but he won't go out of his way to do it without me asking. We both stay at home, and he works on our home most days, but he gets to pick and choose when he wants to work, so if he doesn't feel like it, he won't. I cook and take care of all our daughter's needs every day. All of this isn't a problem right now, but I start school again in August. He doesn't know when to feed her, how much to feed her. He doesn't change diapers often, so he doesn't even check when she needs a change. He doesn't even know which drawer her onesies are in. He doesn't put her to sleep for naps or for bedtime either. Granted, I breastfeed her to sleep sometimes. However, I have put her to sleep in the rocking chair plenty of times without breastfeeding. So I know he can put her to sleep as well if he tried. When he has tried, if she's not already half asleep and goes down easily, he gives up so quickly, and I have to take over. Even if he doesn't give up, I can't let her see me because she will cry and stare at me until I get her. She is very attached to me because I am the one who tends to all her needs. Recently, I have told him more than once a day that he needs to spend more time with her and tend to her needs so she won't always want me. His reply is, "You made her dependent on you, she doesn't want me. But in my opinion, if he tended to her more, she would want to go to him and not look for me every time. He tells me that she's dependent on me because I pick her up every time she cries. But I'm not going to just let her cry all day. I want to give her comfort, and I want her to know that I'm going to be there for her no matter what's wrong. That's her only way of communicating right now, and I won't just ignore her. He also likes to bring up studies done on babies and how you're not supposed to pick them up every time they cry. But the studies that I've read have said it raises babies' cortisol levels, which can cause a number of problems mentally and physically. I think it's also important to note that we have a very independent baby. She is so good by herself for at least an hour after she wakes up. She only whines and cries if she really needs something like to eat, if she hurts herself, if she's tired, or if her teeth are aching. So it's not like he has to entertain her all day or hold her all day, even if she has those issues or wants something. Once her need is met, she is okay and will almost always play by herself. With me starting school, I'm probably going to be gone for most of the day, and I'm afraid he's going to start letting her cry until she can't anymore. That's why he brings up the studies. I'm also afraid he just won't know what to do because he's not even trying to learn what she likes and how she likes things. Another thing is that when he doesn't want to actually watch her or play with her, he just puts on TV shows for her. I'm afraid he's just going to let her watch TV all day while I'm gone. In my opinion, he should want to be involved in his daughter's day-to-day life, and he should want her to want him. He shouldn't fight me for asking him to be more involved with her. I plan on having a deeper conversation with him because every time I've tried to bring it up, I was trying to be nice and not make it a big thing. But he shuts it down or tells me it's my fault every time. So I'm going to let him know it's something that is a big issue for me. I just don't want it to turn into a big argument. I guess I'm asking for advice on how to get him to be involved in what she does every day, without fighting me on it and saying it's my fault that she's dependent on me. And how do I even talk about it with him a different way? Because I ask every day, and it's not getting through to him. What would you say and do in my situation? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. What if you're already using all the right words? You don't have a communication problem, you have a very serious husband problem. Your husband is basically telling you he will neglect your child if left alone with her. What if you took that absolutely as seriously as it deserves? This is something worth fighting. This is something worth taking to couples counseling. This is something where your job as a mother is to turn this into a big argument and not back down until you're confident your child will be safe and have her needs met. In your situation, I would be thinking about the logistics of leaving him if this doesn't change. Comment 2. You need to find childcare for the baby while you go to school. Your husband is unwilling and unable to provide care. I'm baffled you state he's a good dad. There's more to being a good dad than just not beating the kids senseless, and he does none of them. I don't think the baby is safe with him at all. Aside from his insistence that neglect is proper parenting, his assignment of ill intent to an 8-month-old is very worrying. If CPS rocks up to a screening baby sitting in her own filth, you will both lose custody, not just him. Her quietly watching TV all day is the best case scenario, not the worst. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So, a lot has happened this past week. After my last post, I decided to have that deeper conversation with my husband. I waited until our daughter was asleep and we were both calm. I told him how important it was for me that he gets more involved with her, especially with me starting school soon. I explained that I wasn't blaming him, but that we needed to work together for her sake. He seemed to understand, or at least he said he did. The next day, he actually tried to be more hands-on. He changed her diaper without me asking and even attempted to put her down for a nap. It didn't go perfectly. She cried for a bit and he got frustrated, but he didn't give up right away. I thought maybe we were turning a corner, but then something unexpected happened. My husband got a call from an old friend who offered him a job opportunity. It was a short-term project that would take him out of town for a week. He was excited about it, and I could see how much he wanted to go. I was torn because I wanted him to be more involved with our daughter, but I also didn't want to hold him back from something he was passionate about. We talked it over, and he promised that when he got back, he would be more present and involved. So he left for the job, and I was on my own with our daughter for the week. It was tough, but I managed. I even started to feel a bit more confident about handling everything on my own. While he was away, I noticed something interesting. Our daughter started to become a bit more independent. She still wanted me, of course, but she was also more willing to play by herself and didn't cry as much when I wasn't right next to her. It made me realize that maybe I had been a bit too overprotective and that giving her a bit more space was actually good for her. When my husband came back, he was exhausted but happy. He told me all about the job and how it had reignited his passion for his work. I was happy for him, but I also felt a bit of resentment. I had been here, dealing with everything on my own, while he got to go off and do something he loved. We had another talk, and this time it was more heated. I told him how I felt, and he admitted that he had enjoyed the break from the daily grind. He said he hadn't realized how much he needed it until he was away. I was hurt, but I also understood. We both needed to find a balance between our responsibilities and our passions. The next few days were a bit tense, but we slowly started to find a new rhythm. He made more of an effort to spend time with our daughter, and I tried to give him the space he needed to pursue his interests. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Then, something unexpected happened. One evening, while we were having dinner, my husband got a call from his mother. She had some health issues and needed help. My husband decided to go and stay with her for a few days to help out. I was supportive, but also worried about how it would affect our daughter. While he was away, I had a lot of time to think. I realized that our relationship had always been a bit unbalanced. I had always been the one to take care of everything at home, while he had the freedom to come and go as he pleased. It wasn't fair, and it wasn't sustainable. When he came back, we had another long talk. I told him how I felt and that we needed to find a way to share the responsibilities more equally. He agreed, and we started to make some changes. He took on more of the daily tasks, and I made an effort to give him the space he needed. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of frustration and resentment. But we were both committed to making it work. We also decided to seek some outside help. We found a family therapist who helped us work through our issues and find better ways to communicate. One day, during a therapy session, my husband opened up about his own childhood. He had grown up in a household where his father was always working, and his mother took care of everything at home. He realized that he had been repeating the same pattern in our own family. It was a breakthrough moment for both of us. We still have a long way to go, but we're making progress. My husband is more involved with our daughter, and I'm learning to let go a bit and give him the space he needs. It's not perfect, but it's better. Thanks for reading. Aita for reaching out to my boyfriend's biological mom after his stepmom banned me from their home. I, 28-year-old female, have been dating my boyfriend, 29-year-old male, for about 5.5 years. His stepmom, 56-year-old female, is a big part of his life and has been more of a mother to him than his own biological mother. She is a very strong and opinionated woman. I have no issue whatsoever with this, but she's known for lecturing her adult children to the point where they've stopped telling her personal things about their lives. I tiptoe around her because I don't want to stir the pot, especially with a parent of my significant other. To be quite honest with you, I'm afraid of her. My boyfriend and I recently stopped by his parents' house so he could help his dad with something. I had to use the bathroom, so I went inside, did my business, and came out to his stepmom sitting at the kitchen table. I tried striking up a conversation with her. I started talking about the weather, work, summer plans. Our conversation evolved into how her grandchildren, boyfriend's nieces and nephew, were handling their parents' recent divorce. I made a comment about how they seemed to be adapting really well to their mom's new boyfriend and his kids, and how I'm glad they all seem happy and like they get along. She had a few remarks, and then her tone shifted. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I think you need to be more concerned with what your idea of a successful relationship is," and brought up a comment I had made a little over a year ago. I had said in front of her and my boyfriend's dad that I didn't feel comfortable buying a house with my boyfriend before we were married. That didn't go over well at the time, but I held my ground and said both my boyfriend and I deserve the legal protections of a marriage before becoming homeowners together. His stepmom went on to say, "Marriage is nothing but a piece of paper and doesn't change a relationship for the better." If I expected things to magically get better after marriage, I was sadly mistaken. And it was selfish of me to hold my boyfriend to that expectation, when maybe marriage isn't for him. She went on to critique our decisions as a couple and as individuals over the past several years. She said my boyfriend never wanted children before and wouldn't be a good dad. And if she were me, she'd never have kids with him. He is absolutely wonderful with his nieces and nephews and has told me he wants a child. So that was a shock for me. She also told me I was being dramatic about wanting to settle down and have children sooner than later, despite knowing my mother went through fertility treatment for several years before having her first baby. And I have similar health issues that could affect my fertility. She said that not all women can become moms or are even meant to, and I'm being unfair to put that pressure on my boyfriend. Ouch. I do not talk to his parents about the personal details of my relationship with their son at all. My boyfriend doesn't either, to my knowledge. We have both dealt with their criticism. He has his whole life. So we keep things pretty light and at surface level when we talk with his parents. I have absolutely no idea where his stepmom's rant came from. I was crying this whole time. My boyfriend and his dad had been outside, but when we could hear them coming through the front door, his stepmom said, "We are done with this conversation," and immediately changed her tone. Mind you, I looked like I had just had a severe allergic reaction and was trying to inconspicuously wipe the tears and snot off my face. I excused myself to the bathroom and tried to make myself look presentable. After about 15 painful minutes of chit-chat, my boyfriend and I left. The second we got into his car, I burst into tears and had to explain what happened. I didn't tell him every detail, but basically that she had lectured me on our relationship and said I was expecting too much. He was furious and said his stepmom had absolutely no right lecturing me about anything, let alone our relationship. It was none of her business. I didn't want to create an issue between him and his parents, so I told him to drop it for now. But I wasn't sure if I could show my face around his parents for a while, including the family camping trip scheduled in a week. He said he'd talk to his dad about it, but I urged him not to, or at least wait until things cooled off. We haven't talked about it any further, but it's only been a couple of days. Where do I even go from here? What if there was truth to what his stepmom said to me? Was she trying to warn me about my boyfriend? Was she trying to help me become a better person in a tough love kind of way? Were my comments about her daughter's new relationship out of line, even if they were positive? And how can I even begin to maintain a relationship with her after all of this? I'm still in shock and physically sick to my stomach over it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would suggest 100% ignoring everything she said. Not because she was necessarily right or wrong in her advice. Perhaps there are things she made you think of, you should reflect on with people you trust and respect, not her. Maybe she'd claim she was offering tough love or advice, but she absolutely was not. She was only insulting you and parading her own bitterness in front of you. This had way more to do with her issues with her life than it does with your life or relationship. Ignore her because she was 1000% wrong in how and when she approached you. She trapped you and attacked you when she thought she could get away with it without anyone else noticing. She was clearly trying to shame you into keeping the conversation secret from your boyfriend. She was hostile and insulting. She dragged up the long past and inserted herself into private medical discussions. If you value your relationship with her, write this off as her being temporarily insane, and let her and your partner know you expect it will not happen again. Definitely skip the trip. That is not enough time to expose yourself to a bully who just got away with such disrespect and nastiness. When you do connect with his family again, make it clear to him you will decline to ever be alone with her again. You can socialize and should be friendly in large gatherings, and you both need to be prepared to get up and leave if she brings up these private topics again. Comment 2. In my opinion, your boyfriend needs to talk to his stepmother and communicate something like this. Told me about the conversation you had with her when we last visited. While I appreciate that you probably meant well, those topics are not appropriate to question lecture my partner about, and certainly not in the way that you did so, while I was not present in a conversation that centered around me and my relationship with. You are not a participant in our relationship, and you don't, and never will, have the full story about our dreams, goals, and commitments to each other. In the future, if you think you have cause to discuss my relationships, please discuss them with me, and I'll decide whether it's appropriate to widen the conversation to include my partner or not. Don't corner her for a chat like this again, because if you do, she and I will leave, and we will be very much less likely to come over for visits that include you in the future. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for checking in. So, after that awful encounter with my boyfriend's stepmom, I decided to take a few days to cool off and think things through. I didn't want to make any rash decisions or say something I'd regret, but as luck would have it, things took a turn for the worse. My boyfriend and I had a long talk about what happened, and he was still really upset about how his stepmom treated me. He insisted on talking to his dad, despite my initial hesitation. I finally agreed, thinking maybe it would help clear the air. He called his dad and explained what happened. His dad was surprisingly understanding and said he'd talk to his wife about it. I felt a bit relieved, thinking maybe this would lead to some sort of resolution. But oh boy, was I wrong. The next day, my boyfriend's stepmom called me. She was furious. She accused me of trying to drive a wedge between her and her husband and said I was manipulating my boyfriend. I tried to explain that wasn't my intention, but she wouldn't listen. She hung up on me, and I was left feeling even more confused and hurt. A few days later, we went on the family camping trip that had been planned for months. I was dreading it, but my boyfriend convinced me it would be good to show up and try to make things right. When we arrived, the tension was evident. His stepmom barely acknowledged me, and I could tell she was still angry. I tried to stay out of her way and focus on enjoying the trip, but it was hard. One evening, while everyone was sitting around the campfire, my boyfriend's stepmom suddenly brought up the conversation we had in her kitchen. She started criticizing me again, this time in front of the whole family. She said I was selfish and immature for wanting to get married before buying a house and that I was putting unnecessary pressure on my boyfriend. I was mortified. I tried to defend myself, but she wouldn't let me get a word in. My boyfriend finally stepped in and told her to stop, but the damage was already done. The rest of the trip was incredibly awkward. I could tell my boyfriend was torn between defending me and keeping the peace with his family. I felt like an outsider and couldn't wait for the trip to be over. When we finally got home, I broke down. I told my boyfriend I couldn't handle his stepmom's constant criticism and that I needed some space. He was supportive, but also seemed frustrated. He said he didn't know how to fix the situation and felt stuck in the middle. Over the next few days, things between us became strained. We started arguing more, and I could tell the stress was taking a toll on our relationship. I began to question everything. Was his stepmom right? Was I being unreasonable? Should I just let go of my desire to get married before buying a house? I felt lost and didn't know what to do. Then I made a mistake that changed everything. In a moment of frustration, I decided to reach out to my boyfriend's biological mom. I thought maybe she could offer some insight or advice. I hadn't spoken to her much before, but I was desperate. I sent her a long message explaining the situation and asking for her thoughts. She responded quickly and was surprisingly supportive. She said she understood my concerns and that I had every right to want to get married before making such a big commitment. Feeling somewhat validated, I mentioned to my boyfriend that I had talked to his biological mom. He was shocked and upset. He said I had no right to involve her in our problems and that it would only make things worse. I felt terrible and apologized, but the damage was done. He became distant and started spending more time away from home. A few days later, my boyfriend's stepmom found out I had talked to his biological mom. She was livid. She called me and accused me of trying to undermine her and cause more drama. I tried to explain that I was just looking for advice, but she wouldn't listen. She said I was no longer welcome in their home and that I had caused enough trouble. The fallout from all of this has been devastating. My relationship with my boyfriend is hanging by a thread. We barely talk, and when we do, it's mostly arguments. I feel like I've lost his family, and I'm not sure if our relationship can survive this. I've been questioning everything, wondering if I made the right choices or if I should have handled things differently. Looking back, I realize I should have trusted my instincts and not involved his biological mom. I should have focused on working things out with my boyfriend and finding a way to deal with his stepmom's criticism. But it's too late now. The damage is done, and I'm not sure if we can ever go back to the way things were. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.